Stuart is a farmer who has been affected by the recent fires and activities and has been kind enough to join us on the phone. Hello, Stuart. You've got Neil. The other voice you'll hear is Rob.
G'day, Neil and Rob. How are you today?
Good morning, and thank you very much for getting involved, Stuart, on what is an important day for us to assist in spreading the word and supporting this wonderful volunteer network that's come to support you. But before we get into the support, let's talk about life before the fires hit the region and life after. How are you managing that?
Oh, we're going pretty well. Yeah, we're not too bad considering the circumstances. You know, nobody's been injured or killed or anything like that, which is the main thing. And yeah, thanks to Blaze Aid, we're getting back on track pretty quickly.
We're going to be chatting about them in detail later, but just that for people to understand, people in the city listening that maybe still don't understand the function of rural Victoria, Australia and the life of farmers. But if you've got a business model set up and then all of a sudden, after the actions of a fire in one day, your business model has been somewhat devastated with infrastructure damage, loss of stock, which is clearly the most heart-wrenching part of it if you are indeed dealing with animals on your farm. Just some sort of comprehension of what that massive impact has had on the way you function your business model.
Yeah, well, we do Bing and we do ultrafine merino sheep, and we lost about 450 maiden ewes, which are female ewes, which are going to be a future breeding stock on the farm, and that was a bit disappointing. But on the same level, we had about 12 of our pet sheep running around the houses and sheds as lawnmowers, and there was a few cull sheep, about 50 wethers, which are the boy sheep, wethers running around with them, lawnmowers, and lo and behold, smart enough to hop in the shed and survive. So that was a little bit lucky, even though you think they're the dumbest creatures in the world sometimes. They surprise you.
I've got a few pet sheep of my own, Stuart, and I can understand that after spending some time with humans and watching a bit of stuff, I can understand doing that, and good on them for having that sort of foresight and protecting their non-pet friends.
Yeah, well, they can be a bit of a nuisance at times, but yes, they were smart enough in this time to work out a way to escape the fire.
So, Stuart, what part of Victoria are you in?
So we're in the sort of southwest district, so Skipton is sort of between Ballarat and Hamilton, roughly, on the Glenelg.
Oh, we're actually in Skipton. I wasn't sure where you were. So you're in Skipton as well?
Oh, we're at Caramballick, which is k's west of Skipton.
Okay, well, we're sitting at the Skipton Golf and Bowls Club. That's where we're sitting.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sure.
Hence the rural noises in the background, like dogs barking and corellas squawking.
Yeah, so you'll find some characters up there today, I'm sure.
Well, we're talking to a few of them. That's part of the reason we are here. So the damage done by a fire is obviously, it's visible. I've driven in today and seen what's going on, but I guess there's also an element of emotional component to it apart from the livestock. It's just the whole getting back on track again. That must be a drag.
Well, it does. You don't really plan for it, but when it does happen, you've got to get your head around it quickly and make a plan of how you're going to tackle the situation. Get your farm on track as quick as you can.
Protecting for the future, I suppose you'll learn from this, but it's one of those things that is really, really difficult to put things in place to protect. You've got your animals in certain places on the farm. You might be able to say, well, it's a dangerous day, we'll put them all together in the safest place, but the difficulty involved in doing that and then undoing it after the danger of the fire passes. What have you, if anything, learned about the way your farm's set up after a day like this, when you've had this devastation, about how you might deal with the next 45-degree day and winds coming from the north?
Yeah, well, we have more than one farm. We have a couple of farms which we're lucky, so we haven't got all our stock in one place, so we haven't lost the entire breeding stock, which is a good thing. And on a day like we had there on that Friday, the fire moved that quickly. There was very little time to even move the stock. It was moving at an incredible speed, and it was just a matter of saving what you could in a short amount of time.
So how much time in advance have you got warning this is going to happen? Like, is it something that you know, okay, in 5 days' time they're predicting a 45, we probably should get ready? Or could it turn on a I hate this American expression, turn on a dime, and within half an hour it's heading in your direction?
Well, that's basically what it was. We had not much more than half an hour, and we called as our District 16 goes, we called a paddock ban that morning at 10 o'clock. So we put in place where nobody can go into a paddock, and so there's no mechanical activity and no electric fences on. So try to prevent a fire in a situation like that to minimise the risk.
And the work that the community does together, there's been a lot of focus recently around government and rural fire brigades and the pressure in that space. There's been a lot of angst over the last few months around taxes and support and funding. That particular part obviously again highlights the wonderful work that community fire brigades do, because I would hate to think what would have happened had it not been for the rallying of the troops, so to speak.
Yes, well, District 16 has a fantastic radio network where each brigade has their office bearers, and we report in on the radio pretty much every day during the fire season. So we know who's available, how many private units are available on a total fire ban day like that. And because we rely not only on the CFA network, we have a private network as well. So a lot of the farmers have their own fire trucks. And yeah, even in a day like that, I think there's like over 150 trucks in our area. And with an escort, it's hard to control fire with that sort of going on when it's so windy, etc.
So, you know, the one that I can't get my head around is, you know, you've obviously got a CFA truck or your own truck or whatever, and your place is under threat and so's somebody else's. That whole triage system, that means that you might in fact be out fighting to stop someone else's property being damaged instead of yours. That must take a fair bit of courage.
Well, that did happen to quite a few blokes. There was guys out there talking on the radio, tracking the fire, directing fire trucks where to go, and their properties came on under attack very, very soon. One guy lost his house, the other guy had his whole farm burnt, but he'd saved his house. And it does happen. And you just got to take your hat off to those blokes who follow the fires and talk on the radios and give directions to where all the trucks and units to go to fight the fire.
It's almost like that thing you see in circuses with spinning plates, isn't it? You've got one plate spinning all the time with your own property and all these other ones on the go as well.
Yes. Well, it was a fairly broad front by the end, and it went in a few different legs, and so it was quite wide. And it wasn't like a normal fire where you have it, probably it starts off a bit like a tear shape and it goes with the wind. It branched off in a few different directions, which probably made it even harder. And we had a few changes of wind direction, which certainly threw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Stuart, I'm going to tiptoe into some very dangerous territory. When I was a boy, it was spoken about that you never talked about politics and religion, and now I'm getting the sense that we don't or tend not to want to talk about climate change. I'm personally very strong in the camp. Are you and your farming folk more prone to have these sorts of conversations now, or is it still something that's mumbled behind closed hands?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's a huge debate in the climate change thing, but, putting that aside, this has happened before in our areas. In 1977, I was only a young child, and we had a large proportion of the farm burnt then. And that was probably even more disturbing than what it is now. We had a lot of sheep in those days and cattle, and I think we ended up with some cattle left and about 350 sheep out of maybe 12,000 sheep, and I can't remember how many cattle. But that was total devastation when you lost all your income because we didn't have much cropping in those days. That was probably a much more bleak situation than what this one was, because we've simply changed enterprises in the area from sheep and cattle more to cropping.
So the debate doesn't necessarily take place any more than it did amongst the farming groups, despite what seems to be some worse days coming through now, perhaps more often than they used to.
Yeah, every year we will have a paddock band, at least one or two, we just put into place our best way of minimising the risk of a fire happening on those days. We are drier than we have been normally. We've had 2 years of very, very dry conditions. Probably last year was probably one of the driest times since 1967. So there's lack of water in the dams and stuff for stock, and firefighting. It's hard for helicopters to draw water out of the dams to put fires out, but on the day we couldn't even use helicopters and fixed wing aircraft because it was too.
Well, Stuart, thank you for joining us. I hope you've been able to hear us okay. We've got dogs and birds and all sorts of things going on here at Skipton. All the very best for the recovery. The work that Blaze Aid are doing in your part of the world, roughly how much fencing have you got to replace?
We've had about 35 kilometres of fencing that's been burnt. And we had about 6 kilometres of trees that have been totally burnt. Most of them were pines and cypresses, and they just won't grow back like a gum tree, so they're going to have to be they're being pulled down as we speak. And that's pretty much the case for the whole area. There's a lot of pines and a lot of cypress trees, which unfortunately are going to be piled up and burnt probably after this goes through. So it's going to change the landscape around the area, which is a little bit sad. But hopefully,
I've done a little bit of fencing myself, and I reckon after about the first 300 metres it loses its appeal. 35 kilometres is a big task. We better let you go. Thank you for being part of our program today. We wish you the very best in terms of the way forward, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, well, can I just say thank you to Christine Mail for coordinating Blaze Aid, and a bloke called Daryl is a crew leader, and she has been, so is Daryl, and so thank you to their teams.
We will be talking to Chris at about quarter to 11, so if you want to tune in, you can hear her have a chat then.
Rightio, thank you, will do, fellas.
Thanks Stuart. All the best.
That's Stuart Wills. He's a farmer from locally.